way of calming. That's how you know if you gotta go and get to win and not conquer. I had to go out and get it without a sponsor. Kept it real, never crooked, yeah, that's honor. Now I can go out and get it how I want to. Hashtag bless, I choose.
Good evening, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter. Welcome back to the Ryan Matta Show. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday evening. It is May 1st. It is 9:10 p.m. And if you guys could do us a huge favor on the way in, please consider smashing that like button. We're going to have a great interview with a gentleman named Jason Hagenow. And if I don't do it justice, please consider swinging over and checking out Robin Sears' YouTube channel. He has a ton of amazing interviews, and I was absolutely mind blown by his interview with Jason that I just was watching over on Twitter. So, Jason, welcome to the show, man. It's an honor to have you, and great to meet you, man.
Hey, Ryan. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh no, man, it's an honor to have you on. I think your outlook on Bitcoin and what you're doing for the Bitcoin community is absolutely amazing, and it's an honor to hear or have you on the show. So I'd like to start off with your story, man. Where did you get into Bitcoin, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, for sure. I got into Bitcoin, man. I guess I first heard about it like back in 2013, 2014, somewhere around there, and kind of took a little look at it, but didn't really do anything with it, and then came back around to it. I want to say it was 2018, maybe late 2017, when I actually bought a little bit of it, and like many in the space, ended up buying some just so that I could swap it out and get some XRP or some other out there, or shitcoin. It kind of burned me at that point in time, and I was like, oh, forget it. I'm not gonna do a whole lot with this thing. And then I think 2020-ish, late 2020 is when I kind of came back around to it and really took a hard look and a deep dive, and really made the decision then, and kind of came to the conclusion, I guess, that there's something about this thing that everybody's talking about that is going to stick around, I think. So.
And what was that? Do you remember the key? Like, what was the first thing that when you took that second look, that you really were like, yeah, that's there's something here?
Yeah, the fact that nobody can fuck with it, I guess. Can I say that?
Yeah, fuck yeah, you can. No, you can't.
Yeah, man. Just the fact that it's decentralized. Nobody's going to be coming and taking it away from you without you giving it to them. So it really just kind of clicked in my head at that point that something is wrong with the US dollar and these other currencies around the world, and Bitcoin. I guess I shouldn't say it clicked in my head right then and there, but this idea of it being unable to be fucked with and unable to be taken away from me, that clicked at that point. And then it was, as I kept going down the rabbit hole, it just got cemented more and more in my mind that this is the future of money in the world. So, the fact that once you have your 12-word seed phrase or your 24-word seed phrase, and you've got those coins or Porsche Satoshis locked up in your wallet, and nobody can take that from you, it's just a very freeing kind of idea and concept. And when you go down this inevitable rabbit hole, you start to learn about all the other items and products that were used as money in the past, and how they were regularly co-opted by governments or by other civilizations or other tribes, or you name it. Depending on no matter how far back you go, you start talking about those what do they call them, the Raj stones or Rouge stones. Yeah, man. I mean, all of those things that um, when when other humans discovered those populations that were trading with that stuff, just figured out how to replicate them.
Yeah, exploit
They
it.
it took over their money and civilization crashed. I mean, and it's like we can't do that with Bitcoin. You just can't. I mean, unless you're giving it freely to somebody, there's no messing with it. So government is going to find themselves, I think, in a little bit of a difficult position here pretty quick. So they're already finding themselves in that position.
So when you talk about, I guess, sound money, what are your thoughts
Yeah,
on, like, what are some of the downfalls to not having sound money in an economy? I guess I should say.
man, there's so many downfalls. I mean, just the fact that you start getting into these like second level and third level emergent behaviors. And when I look at that, I go, well, that's where like greed comes in, and where a lot of negative feelings and negative thoughts come in, where people are trying to always outdo the other person, and you're always trying to gain more money than the next person has, and you have to do that under a fiat system, because of the fact that the government or whoever's controlling that system is constantly inflating away the value of whatever that money is, whatever that form of money happens to be. That can't be done with Bitcoin. It's just, and once I guess once that clicked in my head, it just really sets apart all the other things that go along with that. I mean, when your dollar, your $20 in your pocket won't buy you the same amount of stuff in a month or in a year as it does today, you now have a innate need to either spend that money as fast as you can, or to figure out a way how to beg, borrow, and steal and obtain more of it into the future at a constantly increasing pace, to outdo the buying power that's being inflated away. And that just brings out all of the greed in people, and all of the bad in people, and all of the need to try and I don't want to say scam. I don't think like every business owner that's out there is really like thinking, oh, how can I get more money out of my customer? A lot of them are. I mean, they'll tell you that, right? I mean, and when
That's
you
what
look at,
business is for.
yeah, I mean, that's everybody's out there. Corporations have a responsibility to their shareholders, basically, to make them money, right? That
Mhm.
that is the whole point. And it's like, that shouldn't necessarily be the whole point, the only point of making money. We should be, if we're living in a world where technology is improving the speed at which we can make things and the efficiency at which we do things, things should be falling in price, not increasing in price. And um, the money is the reason behind that, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about it like that. When your money system is broken, you're incentivizing an economy of thieves in
Yeah.
reality, right? And then if you want your standard of living to maintain the same level, or you want your standard of living to stay at the same level, but your income is not outpacing inflation, you're then almost forced to steal, cheat, or try to game the system just to
Yep.
maintain your standard of living, even though you didn't change, you didn't do anything wrong. The system is changing, and it forces you to do something wrong. Am I understanding how you said that correctly?
Absolutely. Yep. You nailed it right there. I mean, it is uh, just, it's perverse. It's the absolute opposite of what it can be and what it should be and what I believe it will be under a Bitcoin standard. Now we're a long ways from that, right? I mean, we've lived under the fiat systems forever. I mean, you could maybe make an argument that under a gold system and a gold standard that we weren't there. But once we invented basically IOUs, the centralized banks that were, or vaults, whatever you want to, corporations, whatever you want to call them, that were holding on to people's gold and issuing the little slips of paper that say, oh yeah, I've got, $100 or 100 ounces of Ryan's gold in my safe. He's good for, all of this, whatever, dollar bills or pounds or whatever fiat currency you want to call it. Once we got into that system, then gold was kind of fucked. I don't know what any other way to put it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's scarce, but it's very hard to transport. It's got not a whole lot of good qualities, and over time it served us well as when civilizations were smaller, when we didn't have millions and millions of people, and we weren't trying to transact at such a higher pace as well. Then you could walk around with a bag of gold coins in your pocket and not have to worry about being robbed necessarily, because you had 20 of your family members with you, or your tribe with you, or whatever, that was going to protect that gold as well. And as you're walking across the country to go wherever you're going to go buy some, silk or whatever the hell the case is, it wasn't as big of a deal to have something that was as fast as paper, or as light as paper, or as easily hidden as paper. But as you just look through time and you look at those transitions, as technology increased the efficiency at which we could do things, it was just I mean, I look at Bitcoin as probably the greatest discovery ever for humanity. Certainly it ranks right up there, along with like fire and electricity, shit like that. But in our time, in our age, it is certainly the greatest discovery of our age. It's going to enable us to transact in a digital fashion that is safe and secure going into the future. So it's, yeah.
It's pretty profound. It really is, when you start to think about all of the inventions that have happened throughout humanity, and what they've given back to the world. And it's almost like Bitcoin's going to give back more than any tool or any technology or anything that we've ever created, because you could even go as far as saying it's more important than antibiotics, because it's going to extend the life of every human on Earth by a magnitude of probably 2. You know what I'm saying? Imagine how, like, there's a lot of studies and a lot of research. When the money's broken, everything's broken, right? What they're putting in our foods, what they're putting in the skies, what they're putting on TV, the media, the government, it's all corrupted because the money's broken, which, like, the number one cause of death is stress, like just the stress factor. So imagine a world where your government was regulated not really by the citizens, but by the money, right? Because your government would have to do good by you in order to get more money. And if they're not doing good by you, then they're automatically punished. Where we live in a system now where it incentivizes bad behavior. Your government prints so much money, gas goes from $1 to $3. Your government's now making 16 cents in sales tax versus 6. So they're highly incentivized to continuously act in a horrible way that ends up hurting the people that voted to elect them. And we're at a point where the system's so broken that it can't be kicked down the road, it can't be covered up. What do you think that's kind of hard to take in? I don't know where I was going with that one. It's just so amazing.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like it when I look back at it, it's almost like it had to happen. Like, as world, as our population, civilizations were growing, kind of had to happen in the order that it has. And it's, when I think about that, it's almost scary to think, well, then do we, I mean, do we have free will, right? I mean, are we, or are we just cogs in some big wheel, some big game? Do we really live in a simulation kind of a thing? It gets a little kind of out there. But it, man, and I guess I want to go back a little bit to not necessarily the money being broken. It's I like to try and think of it as how we communicate value between ourselves, between each other. And that system is what's broken under a fiat system, right? A system that can be co-opted and controlled and printed freely, or whatever the case is. So when you're living under that system, yeah, all bets are off. You're just doomed for doom and gloom. And I like to believe that we have discovered or came across Bitcoin at just the right time, because I mean, you know, some of the stories and some of the podcasts that I've listened to about the nukes and how, you know, in 6 minutes we could all just be wiped off the face of the planet, except for little groups of people in some remote areas, which are, who knows if they're going to be able to rebuild the planet or not. But you know, it's like there's some, it could get kind of crazy yet, and it's going to keep getting crazy. I have no doubt about that. I I listen to a lot of Jeff Booth's talks as well, and he really, I feel like he takes a very based look at Bitcoin and really understands that this crazy shit in world that we've been living in is going to continue on. The government's going to fight this. Every government across the world is going to fight it in until they stop, or until I like to believe that here in the U.S. maybe we have a chance of getting, you know, people that think like us and believe in Bitcoin into government offices and have an opportunity to change. You were right on the path when you're thinking about like government being paid by the people to do the things that we want the government to do, right? And that is, you know, put a military together to protect us in case there is something that needs some kind of protection, but not go so far as to threaten to wipe everybody off the face of the planet, right? I don't know that anything is that extreme or needed to be that extreme. But I mean, there's bad dudes out there, right? And dudettes. There's some people that really need, we need healthcare systems, right? There's certain systems that we live with that are a net benefit to humanity, and our food distribution, our transportation systems, you know, those kinds of things do need to stick around and be maintained going into the future. And the changing the money is going to change how that stuff is done. You know, my wife works in the government, and local government. Yeah, but she, you know, I hear a lot of the stories. Her and I get into discussions all the time about, you know, kind of the waste that's out there. Why do we need all of, you know, 8 people to go and plant a tree? I shit you not, the other morning I watched the city come by, like one truck after another with one person driving the truck, and they came and marked where the tree is going to go, and then another person came and dug the hole where the tree was going to go, and then another person came and dropped off the tree, but he had to wait for the guy with the bobcat to come and get the tree off the back of the truck. Dude, it was, and then a guy came to put the tree in the ground. Like, what the fuck? You couldn't just put the tree in the ground in the first place? It was insane. I swear there were actually 8 people that all touched this freaking tree just to plant it. It's mind-boggling. And then they don't come around to water it, and so then they put it on the homeowner, even though it's out in the city. Just like you, that's my tax dollars right there going to all of that bullshit. It just, I really was kind of not a happy camper about that. Sorry, I kind of got off on a tangent here.
No, I like the tangents, man. I like that. Feel free to
Um,
rant about the
yeah,
government anytime on my show, my friend.
yeah, all right. But back to fixing the money and fixing how we communicate value, and doing that in an open, transparent, honest way makes, in my opinion, makes everybody have to be open and honest with the value that they're worth and the value that they're willing to pay for something, right? And so I know you mentioned my previous podcast with Robin.
Yep.
You know, I'm in the property management business. That's what I do for my full-time day job. And my wife and I own 2 small apartment complexes ourselves. And so I'm accepting Bitcoin from one of my tenants. And in fact, this just happened today. He just paid his rent today. It's May 1st, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he got the Bitcoin that he paid me in November of last year has appreciated in value by like $652 or something. So he got $326 off his rent today, and just for paying me in Bitcoin back in November, because I'm splitting that appreciation with him 50-50 right now. So
Wait. Say that again.
yeah, so
You got any extra rooms, bro?
right. Everybody should be doing this, and in my opinion, I think at some point everybody will. And where the competition will be is going to be in the length of time you give people to access that appreciation and value, and the percentage that you provide them.
Mm-hmm.
Will change as well, and that'll kind of vary depending on the time, I think. So he paid me $850 was his $850 was his rent back in November of last year. They get a little bit of a discount on other stuff as well, but so
That's cheap.
$850. Yeah, well, I mean, the rent technically is almost $1,100 now.
Oh, yeah.
So 850 in Bitcoin they paid me. Today that Bitcoin's value is, another $750 more than what that was, or sorry, $700 more, whatever 326 times. Yeah. $752. $652. Damn. Uh, so I split that value with him, and anytime during the last 6 months he could have chosen to split that value with me. So 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when Bitcoin was a little higher in price, in fiat
Mhm.
price, he could have split it and probably got another $100 off of this month's rent. But because of our agreement, and for whatever reason, he chose yesterday to lock in that price at the 6 month time.
Mhm.
And so he was able to realize a $326 rent credit from me today. So his rent is becoming more affordable just because he's paying me in Bitcoin. I also, on the back end of that, I got the 850 in Bitcoin and the 326 in appreciated value in my pocket today as well. And
Mhm.
so his 326 in savings equals out to the appreciated value that I also realized today or yesterday when he locked that in. And now everything else going forward is locked up in my wallet. It's actually, I'm leaving that Bitcoin in a wallet specifically for that property, so that I don't have to take loans out against that property to, refinance, to get more debt on it. I don't have to worry about trying to leverage it.
Mhm.
I am demonetizing the value of that real estate in fiat today, and repricing it in Bitcoin terms as effective as a back in November when I started taking Bitcoin for rent. So at
Ex-
some point,
ex- Explain that demonetizing part. What do you mean when you say that?
so if you everything is valued in fiat terms right now. If you look at the value of that building, it's a little over $500,000. I think if I were to try and sell it today, it's appraised at a little over, or assessed by the city at a little over $500,000.
Okay.
In Bitcoin terms, right? That's what, 7 Bitcoin as of today, 8 Bitcoin as of today, maybe 9 Bitcoin as of today. I I am saving all of the Bitcoin that I receive from that building in payment in lieu of rent, and I am not putting any more debt on the building. And so I'm not taking a loan out against the building's assessed or appraised value, or appreciated value, I should say, to fix the parking lot or to, replace the roof. I'm going to use the Bitcoin value that I'm getting paid when that time comes. Hopefully I'll have somebody that takes Bitcoin to be able to pay them with Bitcoin at that point. But, right now the loan on that property, I don't know, I guess it doesn't really matter. I owe about $200,000 left on that property.
Yep.
So once I get 3 Bitcoin saved up in a wallet, I've got all of my money out of that property as far as money that I've invested in it.
Yeah.
And as that Bitcoin appreciates in value going forward, I will just not have to spend anything. I won't have to go back to the bank to get a loan because I've got the Bitcoin to back it up instead of having to go to the bank. So I have taken all the fiat value out of the building, demonetized the fiat value from the building, and remonetized it in Bitcoin, basically. And I'm doing it in a orderly and progressive fashion that doesn't wipe the bank out. They still get their fiat dollars from me. I still pay them back. So it's not really hurting anybody. I'm delaying my gratification or my financial, whatever you want to call it, on that building. But I didn't buy that building for myself anyway. I bought that building for my kids. So this is a win-win for me all the way around. And I think as more business owners see that and hear this, they're going to be more likely to do this. And I think as more consumers, more customers hear about this ability for business owners to, share in that appreciated value of Bitcoin, we can accelerate the adoption of Bitcoin in a much more orderly fashion and in a faster fashion. I think more people will, like you said, do I have any rooms for you? People want to come and live at my building. I don't need, it's full. I don't need to advertise a lot. I mean, when Bitcoiners are going to want to come and live with me, more and more as this continues. So, and then I'm also, I like to think that my renters, my residents, are becoming more, they're benefiting from living in the Bitcoin system by seeing the use of Bitcoin. And, they're going to be able to think about, oh, hey, what kind of business can I start where I'm accepting Bitcoin? Or how can I do this in a fair and a orderly fashion? So it's not like the world has to end or the government has to crash tomorrow and then everybody has to somehow find a way to buy some Bitcoin. We're going to do it by everybody just slowly building up that Bitcoin. So
I like that. I'm interested. So I pay rent on I really like it because it's you're like, a lot of people say, well, if Bitcoin's so valuable, why would anybody spend it? But you just kind of flip that on its head. You're like, no, wait, we can all spend our Bitcoin and we can all win together. And it really changes that model. So explain that a little bit more on like you said, on November, he paid. And the reason I'm asking is like, so every month you basically record that he paid in Bitcoin, and then he has 1 year from the date to basically claim the.
6 months. He's got 6 months claim to the appreciation. That's just where we started with it. He and I have talked about extending that time. I I think it's a little early for me to do that at this point in time.
No,
I could,
6 months seems very fair.
yeah,
And
that's
then it
what
gets
I
too
think.
hard to track all of it if you're
Yes,
way, you know.
yes, it absolutely does. Yep. And I mean, the crazy thing is if I die tomorrow or I get hit by a bus tomorrow, my wife can, and she decides she doesn't want to mess with it. She wants to sell the building and not be a part of that anymore.
Mhm.
She can still honor the 6 month agreement because we've got the Bitcoin in the wallet, and so it doesn't harm her from holding to that agreement going forward, and so that's a key. Um, uh, you said something else there that I wanted to kind of.
I was asking like because you start on you said 6 months. So then now my next question is so he had the 6 month here. He got $350 off his rent, which so he only had to pay 500. Let's say if it was 850.
Yep.
Now what happens with the 550 if he pays in Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Does
Same thing. He's got
same
six
thing.
months.
So you got 6 months to do that. Oh,
Yep.
sweet,
Yep.
dude, that's freaking cool.
Yeah, man. So it in my this is where I was going to go with that actually. So in my world, if I am not overly leveraged on that property, right? I owe 200,000 on property that right now is probably valued at 550 or whatever. So I'm not overly leveraged. If everybody decided they don't want to pay in Bitcoin tomorrow and the world does come crashing down or the market, we go into a big bear market and, everybody moves back in with their parents or more so than they are already, and rents have to come down. I can afford to lower the rent down quite a bit actually, and still be able to pay the bank back the fiat dollars that I owe them. And
Hmm.
so I'm not overly worried about that. But the ability to continue accepting Bitcoin, I think also. Gosh darn it all! Now it just went right out of my
Right
head,
of
man.
your head again.
What?
I was going to, you got 6 months something or something, and you were gonna think about it and talk about
Yeah,
paying with Bitcoin and
yeah. This
there it
is
is.
where yes. Now it's back. All right. It's accelerating the adoption of Bitcoin in a manner such as this, where it's not harmful to me as the business owner. It's not harmful to the consumer, the customer, or my resident. Right. It drives usage to the network as well, and so it's a net gain for my resident. It's a net gain for me in the fact that so even if my resident doesn't want to, isn't a Bitcoiner, they don't believe in it, they have no desire to do anything but pay me my rent in Bitcoin, they're still benefiting me, even though it's kind of a break even on the financial side of things. They're still benefiting me as a Bitcoiner, as they're using the network and they're increasing the decentralization of the network and the adoption of the network. So
Mhm.
they will eventually someday go, hey, this is a pretty good deal, maybe I should start digging into this Bitcoin thing, even if for 3 months or 6 months, whatever that time period happens to be. They're like, no, I don't, all I want to do is pay you the rent, and this seems like a good deal, so I'm going to do it that way. But I don't want to talk to you about Bitcoin. I don't want to hear about all the other benefits that I can get from it. Eventually they will come around to that. And so I mean, I think again, as business owners, as Bitcoiners, we kind of have a responsibility to help ensure that the future of the network holds fast and secure and decentralized. And by driving adoption of the network by more people, by more of our customers as business owners, we can help promote that and we can help the network in ways that aren't just financial. So that's where I was going with it.
No, that's awesome, and I really like the outlook and the mindset, and I think about how cool it would be, and think about how easy it would probably be to get more of your tenants to do the same thing if like, you had like a little community area and you had like a little thing that said, John Doe just saved $350 on his rent this month. Like, congratulations, way
Got
to
it.
go with Bitcoin. And then everybody's gonna go, wait, how did he get $350 off his rent? All I had to do was pay in Bitcoin, and I have
You
no
get
risk to the downside. Like
Yep.
if Bitcoin price crashes, I don't owe you more in rent. So you're uh, you're almost you'd be an idiot if you did not pay you in Bitcoin and you live there, because you
Correct.
lose no risk to the downside and all the risk to the upside.
Correct. Absolutely. Not only that, now I've also talked to one of our state representatives, um, and I'm trying to get a hold of
What
our
state?
state, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah. Gosh darn it. No, I'm gonna blank on her name. I'm thinking of our senator's name, Kel DeRoy's. Man, oh man,
Gotcha.
oh man. Anyway, it's a foot in the door with them as well, and it's a way for, I believe, for our legislators to understand Bitcoin better. When I go to them and I say, hey, look, I'm a Bitcoiner and I'm promoting affordable housing, and this is how it's going to do it if you allow or pass laws that protect my right to accept Bitcoin and to use Bitcoin and to have my residents use Bitcoin, you are going to drive the adoption of affordable housing across I'm just one small
Tammy
guy.
Baldwin.
Tammy Baldwin. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, if more of our, yeah, there she is. If more of our legislators and our lawmakers understand this, I don't know how they could say no, how they could say no, we don't want Bitcoin, when I can go to them and I can show them the numbers of how I'm creating more affordable. I mean, think if Bitcoin goes on an epic run, I mean, this couple that are paying in Bitcoin, every single person could live there for free potentially for a year,
Mm-hmm.
3 years. You know, and I'm not I'm happy to do that because that I'm going to financially benefit from that as well, right? Because the Bitcoin that I hold from them is going to offset all of my future costs that I owe the bank or whatever the case is. So it I've yet to talk to anybody that can say, oh no, that's not going to work that way for you. And as lawmakers understand this and hear about it, I don't see how they can not. Um, well, maybe
Yeah.
there's yeah.
It's
I don't.
when you start taking away their shiny toy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What do you think
Yeah,
that?
but
Go ahead.
a lot of our lawmakers. Sorry to just keep going on this, but a
No,
lot
keep
of
it rocking.
our business owners, they operate businesses, and if they can make this switch and they can get that through their head and they can see it happening with other business owners, I don't see how they couldn't make that switch. It not all of them obviously, but a whole lot more than what are currently understanding it. So should be adopting it.
So, what do you think were the biggest hurdles that held Bitcoin back from being more adopted as far as like FUD? Like, what was it that you think has pushed so many people away?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can just go through the list over the last 15 years, right? I mean, it was scary at first. It's a software program. It can be changed unless you're familiar with software and how writing programs go. And face it. I mean, so many people living in this country are just like, oh yeah, that works. They turn on their computer and it's like they don't even think about the programs that are running in the back, right? It's like, oh, I need Google. Oh, I need, Microsoft Word. I got to type an email. They have no idea what HTTP
Mm-hmm.
is, right? They have no idea what those letters stand for. They don't, and I don't either, right? Like
Yeah, right.
not to the level of developers and software programmers,
Yep.
not at, but I understand enough to go, yeah, this makes sense to me, and it, as long as it stays decentralized and as long as it stays secure, nobody gets control over writing that code. uh, and nobody has any reason to try and alter that code, this is going to be successful. And so once you get through that, and that's a big leap, that a lot of people just don't understand the consensus mechanism built in, where a majority of the nodes that are operating on the network have to agree to basically follow the new path, or the new protocol that was written in order for that change to take effect, right? And you could have a network that splits into two different protocols, basically, or two different softwares, and be running them both, and some of them are still running. Some of the forks that happened back in 2015 and Bitcoin Cash, I think BC Cash or something like that. I haven't done a whole lot of research into all of that stuff, but those forks are still out there, and people could jump over to those. But the reason that they don't is because all of the value is on the current fork, is on the current protocol as it is written right now. And so that's a big one. And then you start to get into the FUD over, well, it's just a bunch of drug dealers using it, all the Silk Road stuff. And when you think about it and you look back on it, of course, the people that are the least happy with the way society is operating now, or currently, or back then, are going to be the ones that are looking for other options. And they're the ones that are going to experiment with the Bitcoin network back then. And so that's going to be your drug dealers, your criminals, your sex traffickers, whatever the case happens to be. They're go that way first. And I mean, it makes perfect sense. And then those things are going to get busted. People are going to start going, no, we don't want that on the network, and start pointing that out to the governments or to the police or whatever, however that all works. But a fact of life is, certainly under the fiat system, is people are greedy and people are fucked up, and when they have a financial incentive to get ahead by taking advantage of other people, they're going to do that. And once you take that financial incentive away, I think it changes a lot of that. So
yeah, I think it's Eric V. Stacks who says it a lot, is you don't have to believe in anything about Bitcoin, but as long as you believe that people are always going to serve their self-interest, then there's no better investment than you can make than in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is always going to help people serve their self-interest the best, because you don't have to cheat anybody to constantly win and continuously win for long periods of time, because when you buy Bitcoin and it goes up, you're winning, but so is everybody else. It's the only one of the things that it's not really a zero-sum game, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's crazy to think about that. That's going to, that 10 years from now, there'll come a point in time where every single person that's bought Bitcoin is up money. And it happens, and it's so cool to think about that. Like when Bitcoin puts in a new all-time high, it's like every single person who ever invested in this asset is winning, and we're all winning together. Yes. And that's like, I do a lot of politics, so I'm in a completely different realm. And I think that, we're watching the separation of money and state. Yes. And I was asking you, what basically kept people from getting into Bitcoin. And I think it all was just lack of education. Is if you summed it down to like first principle standpoint, it was just people didn't understand the technology. People were afraid of the technology because they didn't understand the technology. It wasn't developed enough. We understand it a lot better. So now, the barrier to entry is basically educating people. Once you can educate them and explain to them what Bitcoin is, and they see all the benefits to it. I mean, it's just, there's no downside to it. It's just pure benefits. So it should be easy to help transition these people from the fiat world into the Bitcoin world. We're gonna see what would inevitably come would be the separation of money and state. I know a lot of people think that we can back the dollar. I'm not opposed to backing the dollar with Bitcoin, but I still think that you're kind of in that broken feedback loop where if you don't fix and take that power, separate money and state like it's supposed to be, and return that back to the people, then you're going to be in a really, really bad position. What do you think that looks like? Are we watching it now? Because I feel like our government's not tyrannical enough yet, but
Yep.
how I guess how would they stop that? Like if I know they can't stop it, but what do you think's going to happen because they're going to try to stop it? Where does this go? Like what are we going to expect over the next 6 months? Because I feel like the people that want to stop it are in power now. They got about 6 months left on that dial. What do you expect to see?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm the best at predicting the future. I have no doubt that the government will continue to try and tighten the screws on this as much as they can. Um, but I also have no doubt that the best form of communicating value between humans is going to win out in the end.
Yeah, without doubt.
So, yeah, they may try to somehow co-opt or 6102 attack the Bitcoin that all the that is sitting in ETFs, and they may come at me and want access to want me to turn over my wallet and my seed phrase to them, and uh, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's it's just not going to happen. And I think people will move. People will vote with their feet if it comes down to that. We may find ourselves in a position where the dollar is backed by Bitcoin for a little bit, maybe
Mhm.
if they do co-opt the Bitcoin sitting on Coinbase right now, and maybe even our Michael Saylor's coin, all of his coins. That's a public company that owns a whole shit ton of Bitcoin right now, over 1%, right? Um, the government can take that and certainly try to build a CBDC or a keep the dollar going based off of that Bitcoin backing it up for a time that very well might work. But in the end, it's still a shitcoin, and it's still going to end up failing miserably like everything else. So, my hope is, and this is another reason why I think we have to drive value to the as many people as we can, as fast as we can, and get people seeing that. Not everybody is going to take the education route, right? I've been looking at Bitcoin and studying Bitcoin for the last 4 years now. Fuck, a lot. Like
Uh,
thousands of hours of my time, of my life. I have read every book I can get my hand on practically, and they seem to keep coming nonstop. But that's me. That's how I learn, and I can see it, and I've got the time and the freedom to be able to do that as well. I've got a decent job, and I'm secure already. I've got these 2 apartment buildings. I have a lot more time to myself than many people across this country and across the planet, right? Where
mhm.
they're working every single day for every single penny so that they can just feed themselves and stay alive, like literally keep a roof over their head and keep themselves alive. They don't have the time and energy to spend on reading books for in an hour or two or three or four every night for 4 years straight to understand this technology is going to be a benefit to them. But when you start to help people in their pocketbook, now I work in affordable housing, project-based Section 8 housing. The government pays 70% of the rent for people, or people pay 30% of their adjusted gross income to live in towards their rent, right? I keep thinking, and I've talked to my boss about this, that what if what if we started giving all of our renters the same option? If they paid us in Bitcoin, they would have 6 months to reduce their rent and to see that price appreciation, even on the 30% that they pay. That may save them a bunch of money in the future. And I think the government should see that and go, hey, we could get out of the affordable housing business. I mean, it's billions, and I think hundreds of billions, if not $1 trillion a year, practically goes to paying people's rent so that they're living in the apartments across this country. The
Jesus
government could do a
Phoenix.
whole lot more with all of that money. I tell you what, if if people were able to benefit from the Bitcoin network, and I think they could. I don't see why they can't. And so that's where I'm pushing, and that's where I'm going with this. And I hope to convince my boss that we can give it a shot at, maybe one of our smaller properties or something.
Is your
Um,
boss your wife?
no, no,
Not that boss.
not that boss. Yep, different boss. So, but I just, when I start to think about it, it blows my mind, and I'm like, I have to keep stepping away from it and go, am I crazy, or am I really onto something? Can this work? And can this slowly and methodically and orderly just kind of take over? And this, just it relieves pressure on the government, it relieves pressure on the people. They're able to see that this network is working and understand it, and then when they have an extra hour, they can start to dig into it more, and then they can decide if they want to run a node, or then they can decide if they want to get a cold storage wallet and take on that responsibility, right? But a lot of people across this country don't even, they don't have $50 a week to save up. They don't hardly have $5 a week to save. And
Yep.
so it's just it's a lot, man. It really is a lot. And I really do think, and I really do hope that we can get through it, and we can get the majority of people adopting it, so that there is no chance for somebody to co-opt it and to fuck with our network, because it's got a lot of upside. So, sorry.
It's no, it's great, man. I love the outlook. I love the information that you're sharing. I'd interviewed a gentleman. He's in the more the political side of things, and he wanted to debate me about Bitcoin. And I came on his show, and we had like a nice long 2-hour conversation. And at the end of it, and this was when Bitcoin was like 33,000. And I had told him that I kept 95% of my wealth in Bitcoin. And he was like, wait, he didn't know that I was, when he invited me on, he just thought I talked about Bitcoin. He didn't know that I was like a full on maximalist. And I keep all my wealth in Bitcoin. And, he was like, well, it's not backed by anything. What's it backed by? And I kept telling him basically at the end of the conversation, it was like, listen, man, like whether you believe in it or not, you should want it to win. It's a net positive for humanity. This is a currency that is not controlled by any government. It's above the reach of any government or corporation. And no matter what, like you should want this to win, whether you believe in it or you're upset with yourself or you couldn't believe that this thing backed by absolutely nothing is worth 70 something thousand dollars right now. You should still want it to win, because without it, we have no ability to fight tyranny. We have no hope. There is nothing left for humanity but a centralized bank digital currency where you're living in a 15-minute city and you're surveilled, and to leave your apartment complex, your social credit score has to be top notch, or you have to go pick up some trash before you can leave the door. And in every text you send, every thought you think, every word you read, it's all monitored, it's all cataloged, and there's some AI software on the back of it that's using predictive programming modeling to like propagate ads in front of you before you even know that you're out of toilet paper. All of a sudden you're seeing an ad and it's like, oh shit, yeah, I gotta get that toilet paper, right? Because it just knows, right? Or maybe it just monitors the amount of toilet paper that gets flushed on your toilet and automatically orders it for you. You want it to win. And my question where I'm going with this is, like, you had mentioned earlier about everything, like technology should make everything in a free market deflationary by design, right? Like I think Jeff Booth says it the best. And you had touched on it earlier, and I wanted to hit back on that. We look at TVs. I think TVs are one of the only thing that's really has got exponentially cheaper as technology evolved. They got better at producing these TVs, even though the electronics that are going into them are even more advanced than the electronics that were before.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on automobiles? Right. And I'm thinking about that. I go, wow, we've been producing these things for going on over 100 years now. You got wheels, a tire, an engine, and this thing uses gas and it goes down the road. Yep. But yet, a car back in 73 was 1,700 and today it's 43,000.
Yeah.
Why is it that some things like TVs are getting cheaper and cars are not? Is it just the supply and demand kind of thing? You have to have a car, you don't have to have a TV, or?
That's a good question. I guess I haven't given it a whole lot of thought. Um, why aren't cars getting cheaper?
Because everybody's like, oh, it's all the like they got, the cars have all this new electronics and all this new shit in it. And I'm like, well, and I was thinking, well, so do the TVs, but TVs are gotten cheaper. Why aren't cars?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't. Maybe it's more of a supply and demand thing where, as the population grows, the supply isn't quite keeping up enough to keep the price lower. I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe the raw
yeah,
materials like metals and stuff going up so much in value versus a TV where it's all plastic,
yeah, I think no, because
or are
even
we just getting ripped off by these fuckers?
part of it we're certainly, I think, get off by them for sure. They've got that perverse incentive to keep the prices up. Um, I think there are certainly subsidies that go to electronics manufacturers and technology companies, that I don't know that the automobile companies necessarily get. Um, I think you always hear of the unions in the automobile industry. So there's certainly a level of having to keep the price high to pay the labor costs. Um, I have no idea how TVs are manufactured, how much human labor goes into a TV versus how much human labor still goes into an automobile. So I think there's probably a certain part of that. Uh, but yeah, I couldn't say exactly. Everything should be coming down in costs. That
Mm-hmm.
that that is just the clearest thing. I certainly I would have to argue that even with all the technology in cars nowadays and all the safety features, they're still pretty cheap. I mean, when there are a lot of plastic goes into them. What was
Mm-hmm.
it? The ones that were like all plastic except for their basically
Mm-hmm.
and the engine and the brakes, but the bodies were all
Yep.
100% plastic. And so, I don't. Yeah, I, I'd have to circle back on that one
Circle
and
back on that.
yep,
I don't.
I got. I'm not familiar enough with the manufacturing processes of those two industries to make a good
Yeah.
to give a good coherent reason as to why
Yeah.
the
No,
prices
I get it.
go.
I want to end it on one. I'll say something on that too. Is I used to work in the automotive. I was a controls engineer before I went and came back and got into the podcasting and doing all this. So there wasn't much. There's a lot of waste that a lot of employees that I guess were just there because the technology is evolving and all those employees. Where I'm going with that is just I could pretty much replace every single employee if I was going to put the vision systems in and automate the process. You could replace about 90% of employees in an auto manufacturing plant, which I think is what Tesla has done, right? They really slimmed down and
Yeah,
automated everything that you can. And I think it's going to be a net positive for humanity because as soon as everybody gets on the Bitcoin standard and we fix the money, imagine like what this world is
yeah,
going to look like when like you look at all the bad stuff, especially in the United States, which our government is doing right now, and the amount of money that they're sending to these foreign countries. I mean, billions and billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars. And then you
yep,
go, wow, like you're looking and you go, wow, they could have done a lot for us in America. Like we should be freaking thriving. And you've
yes,
seen we got a little taste of it when Trump came back in 2020 to 2024. Like that was such a, or I mean, 16 to 2020. Like I don't
hmm
think any of us really realized how good it was and how good it was getting. Because like when everything's great in your relationship and your wife's good, she's beautiful. You kind of you take those things for granted because they're just around you every day and you don't appreciate it. Like the first day you met and you're in that honeymoon phase. And
yeah, yeah,
I think that's what we had under Trump, and none of us really realized how good we had it or how good it was getting until we went back. We got shot back, into where we're at now, and people are for the first time.
yeah,
Like I think a lot of us like are worried that we might not have a country in a year. Like if this keeps continuing, we can't sustain at the rate that we're at, and we've kicked that can down the road with the money printer as many times as humanly possible. I would say that maybe they could get one more kick out of it if we didn't have the internet, if we didn't have free speech, and we didn't have 1,000 sleuths out there that are showing you everything that the Fed's going to do before they do it, and proving that, you know, this great taking that they call it is what's coming from the derivatives market. I always recommend this documentary if you haven't watched it, The Great Taking. It just came out about 3 months ago. It's on Rumble. And this guy, like in the '08 crisis, we had Michael Burry, right? He's the guy from The Big Short that basically was predicting it all. But that movie didn't come out till was like 4 or 5 years after the fact, right? Like they went back and found this guy that had predicted it and they made a movie on it. Well, this guy, David Webb, has made his version of The Big Short, but before it's happening. Like, so he's laid it out step by step on all the regulations, everything that changed, how they changed. I'll send you a text message with that link.
Okay.
Have you seen this yet?
I have not. No.
Oh man, it's so freaking good. And he really, Lexi, I'm going to pull it up here and show everybody. So if anybody who's watching wants to go check this out, I highly recommend it. But it's pretty interesting to see all the things that are in place and all the regulations that have been changed, so that when the banks collapse, you know, that money is no longer yours. I think everybody is under the assumption, but this documentary over here called The Great Taking, highly recommended it. It only has, I think, 150,000 views. I think this should be mandated at every high school across America for the next month. Every Friday they should play this, so that every single student in America is aware of, like, our government's got so corrupt that we are in a system that has regulators to protect you from the people that are stealing your money. And I think that's a Jeff Booth quote.
Yep.
I'll end it on this. What do you think it's going to take, considering how bad things are and how many people are waking up? What do you think it's going to take for people to go, I'm just done with this? Like, me and you've kind of like slowly worked our way out, but like we've had years to kind of, like, it feels like something's coming and it's going to be bad, and everybody's going to try to wake up really quick. What do you like? How bad do you think it has to get? Is it inflation coming back? Is it, you know, lockdowns again? Is it another COVID? Like, what do you think is going to be that thing that really pushes people over the edge? Or how bad do you think it has to get, I should say?
Man, I mean, if from where I'm sitting, it's already bad, right? I mean, I don't know how much worse it can get before somebody goes totally ballistic and goes nuclear with it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm definitely worried that we're getting closer to that point, and it has to change before that. There's going to be more of the same. I think inflation goes crazy. I do think this election cycle is, once we get through that, it's just going to be a different world that we're going to be living in, and for good or bad, I think that's part of what it's going to take. I think it's also going to take people like you and me, man, spreading the word and showing people that there's hope, and showing people that there's positivity, and that there is another way. And as that story keeps going out, I mean, that's why I wanted to come on your podcast, and why I've started to come on the podcast, because I think the more we do this, and the more we share our stories, and the more we share our ideas with people, the more that catches on. And you tell one person, I tell one person, that person tells one person. Now 2 people know because of us, and then 4 people know because of us. And that exponential growth, as that starts building up and ramping up, really just starts taking off. So that's where I'm at with it. I really hope that is what happens. And I hope you keep doing what you're doing, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So we can beat them from the bottom up.
We have to, man. We have to save humanity. Stack sats and save humanity. That's my new favorite saying, man, because we're going to need more people like you out there. And it's just an honor to have you on the show, Jason. Where can everybody find you? I'm going to throw your Twitter up here on the screen. I got it linked down below in the description. It's Twitter. If somebody wants to invite you on the show for a podcast or interview you, or got the same questions for you, is Twitter the best way to go? Where to find you?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, appreciate it. Yeah,
perfect.
Hit me up there.
God bless you, Jason, man. Thank you for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. And hopefully you'll come back and keep us updated on anything that you're working on or anything new, or you just want to come on here and talk shit about our politicians or, shoot the shit on Bitcoin, man. You're always welcome.
Sounds good, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
God bless you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's a wrap over here on the Ryan Matta Show. Thank you so much for sticking with us. It is Wednesday, April 1st, and I greatly appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you want to check out our sponsors, you can go to mypillow.com/Matta, and you get 50 to 60% off everything store-wide. And if you'd like to support us, you can use our affiliate links down below to the exchanges that we work with, and you'll get some free Bitcoin. So God bless you guys. Keep stacking that Bitcoin, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.